Hi guys, Harry Otis here, professional trader for 20 years. Started my career way back in 2005 and still alive in 2026. Okay, big day today. A lot of drama. Ceasefire was announced yesterday, and this is day one of the ceasefire. So what happens? Well, day one, already the drama started. We can't even go one day without the craziness happening, even after apparent good news. Okay, well, we'll get to that first. This is the S&P 500, huge gap up day. We started high. We started around 675 on the SPY, dropped all the way down after the drama, and then finished close to the highs. It was pretty much a huge day. Okay, huge up day. So before we get to the ceasefire and all the drama, we have a lot to talk about, okay? And my thoughts, which are not one-sided, they are fairly mixed. Okay, we'll get to that soon, but first let's talk about always the technical picture of the SPY. We're still in this chop zone, yes. Okay, let's bring out the moving averages. In one day, we climbed above the 200, that's very good. And we also closed above, can you guys see it? Closed above the 50. One fell swoop, both above the 200 and the 50, okay? So that is quote unquote bullish, okay? But as I said before, when we were in the chop zone, that I will reserve my bullishness until we break to all-time highs, because right now we're just back inside the chop zone. So now we are clearly into neutral territory after a huge gap up move. This is very positive, okay? And let's talk about the sentiment as well. Remember, neutral, not bullish yet. Although technically you can say it's bullish because we finished above both the 200 and the 50. I will reserve that until we get to new highs, okay? Neutral, heading in the right direction. Sentiment, fear. We just barely moved into fear, from extreme fear to fear. Plenty of room to go much higher. This is a very, very hated quote-unquote bull market. And yes, we are in a bull market, okay? A 10% correction of bull market is very, very normal, okay? Still, everything is at extreme fear almost. Market volatility neutral, safe haven demand goes to greed, okay? Which is the difference between the 20-day stock price and bond prices. Starting to turn, okay? So although these indicators are not, which means we're basically at fear, okay? We're still at fear. So this is plenty of room to go higher. This buttresses our bullish thesis, okay? Because yes, like we said, still in a bull market, okay? And this could be the bear trap that we said before, which I think it is, okay? So we did have some macro today, which were the FOMC meetings came out on Wednesday. FOMC meetings signal Fed saw dual-sided risks from the Iran war, meaning that the Fed said that the protracted war could hit jobs and warrant cuts, but inflation is going to be high, so we have to keep, we can't be too quick on the rate cuts, okay? Because inflationary pressures could hit with this war. Okay, remember, this was before the ceasefire. So these guys are very, very scared. Look, the vast majority said inflation progress could be slower. Okay, that's Fed speak for we're not going to lower rates anytime soon if this war continues and oil is super high. Okay, so even though they said the data showed the labor supply, the labor is broadly in balance. Remember, we mentioned that the underlying fundamentals are strong. The jobs report last week was strong. Okay, that's pretty good. However, these guys are in smack down in the middle of war, so the Fed is probably going to do nothing in the face of war. Okay, so that affected the markets a little bit, but then boom, back up because these are just the minutes. Okay, so let's get to the big thing of the day. Ceasefire day one, huge drama. What happened? Well, Dow surges 1,100 points as U.S.-Iran ceasefire sends oil prices tumbling. Okay, but then immediately U.S. has violated the ceasefire agreement. Iran parliamentarian speaker says, okay? So if you go to like Zero Hedge, you go to all these sites, but basically it's like back and forth because Israel is still attacking Lebanon. They had a huge airstrike in Lebanon, a lot of a big coordinated effort to, this is like clearly after the ceasefire, and they don't care. Israel is going to be the impediment to the peace talks, okay? Because this is why the market is very, very iffy, okay? And immediately as this was happening, tanker passage, another article, tanker passage through the Straits of Hormuz was halted as Iran accuses Israel of ceasefire breach, okay? So what is going on here is that Israel is attacking, not Pakistan, Israel is attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon, and that is a violation of the ceasefire agreement according to Iran, so they're shutting off the strait again. But here, okay, this is a key here. US-Iran agreed to meet for the first direct talks in Islamabad on Friday. So they're still going to meet, okay, even though Israel, again, hit Lebanon, okay, massive IDF strikes, okay. So the first two ships here, the next one here is the first two ships since the ceasefire was announced have crossed the Strait of Hormuz, and that Iran demands a toll. Okay, so it's still, they're going to talk about the 10 conditions that Iran wants to meet before the war is over. So we're still on edge. We're not out of it yet. Okay, we are not out of it. This is the drama. I'm just describing the drama, but I want to give you guys my thoughts on what I think going forward based on this drama. Okay, remember, this is just a 2-week pause. We don't know yet, okay? So let's start with the S&P 500, okay? First, what this ceasefire means. This move right here, when we closed above the two moving averages, okay, the 50 here in red and the 200 in blue, we closed above this. So this move burned a lot of fuel, if you will, okay? I expect some kind of down move before, because the war is clearly not over and Israel is not going to do anything unless the U.S. talks to them seriously and tells them to really abide by this ceasefire, okay? Because the talks are real. The U.S. and Iran really want to get out. Okay, Iran was hit hard. Okay, they're not winning this war. They're getting hit a lot. Okay, but the U.S. is not winning either. Okay, the U.S. is losing a big propaganda war. They lost some soldiers. Their oil is through the roof, and they can't withstand that. And Trump's numbers are in the toilet. Okay, he's like the two most hated leaders in the world are first Bibi Netanyahu and second Trump. It's like the entire world hates him. So like it's a PR nightmare for Trump, a political nightmare for Trump, and a real physical damage, death toll nightmare for Iran. So they both want out. However, the third party in this mix, Israel, does not want that to happen. They want the war to continue, and they want the U.S. to keep fighting on their behalf. So it's still not over, and I'm very, very mixed, okay? Because with the S&P 500, we wasted a lot of fuel. I'm expecting a move down before going back up, okay? And the reason I say that is because the S&P 500 might have had a great day today, by other factors like oil isn't so great. I mean, we talked about yesterday the negative divergence that was playing, and we expected a move down. So this move down might have alleviated, but if you look carefully, this is just like a 10% down move, a 12% down move on U.S. oil. Okay, that's not a lot. A 10% move in a commodity that has, if you look at the options, like 100% plus implied volatility, this is nothing. Okay, and if you look, nothing has been violated on this uptrend. Okay, let's bring in some moving averages to see what I'm talking about. Although it did close below the 20, and that's the 20-day moving average in pink here, it's still way far away from its 50. And if this were a stock and not a commodity, the first touch of the 50 is always a buying opportunity. Okay, so a commodity is not the case, because if the fundamental news comes out that the war is over, this is going to crash. Okay, a real crash for me in oil would be a 20 to 30% drop in a day, like this in silver here. This is a real crash before it stays low. Something real has to happen with U.S. oil. Okay, so let's take out the moving averages. This, to me, it doesn't violate the uptrend. I can draw a line here on a trend line. It's still not violated, okay? Although if you did short, you're making some money on the negative divergence. But the oil, for me, this 10% move or whatever, 12%, it's not enough. You need 20 to 30% drop with real fundamental news. This is just a pause. So this is why the results are mixed. For the SPY, the results look very, very good. Okay, but for oil, I'm not entirely convinced we're out of the woods yet. Okay. Second thing is gold. Okay, because our entire premise here is that once the war ends, we're going to have a total unwinding of the war trades. Okay, and one of them is gold, because gold was being sold off here by Turkey and other countries to make up for the war. And right now, look, gold was up at this. I don't know if you can see it. It's a wick. This is bad news for gold. Which further supports my claim that I made yesterday that we're probably going to chop around for 2, 3, 4 months before going higher. Okay, but gold was up $150 at one point, and now it's like barely up. 20. Okay, so we could see continued weakness, not weakness, but choppy sideways. But that doesn't mean that the miners are going to do bad. I'm just saying that gold itself is not doing as well as expected. It's not being unwound like the war trades scenario would suggest. Because if the war trade scenario, if the war was over, gold would be ripping. There would be no reason for this. It would be much higher. We would be close to 5,000 in the highs. We're playing around these levels. Okay, and it's the same with silver. Silver today was up a lot. It was up to like 77.50 and it closed at 74.30. So barely up. Silver's even lower. Okay, for silver to make a big move, technically speaking, I need it above this level. Okay, that would make a double bottom. We're not even close to that yet. So if gold doesn't move, I don't think silver moves either. Okay, so we're going to be in a sideways market for the gold and silver space going forward. Okay, and I'd also like to talk about Bitcoin here. Bitcoin still sideways. We're not above this level yet. We're not above the 73K. We had a little move up. It's sideways consolidation. But this is a good washout. If we do break it out this time, I think we continue to go higher to my perceived move of 90K around there. So we're still working on Mara. Okay, Mara here. We're still working on that. Okay, I expected it to go around the 15 level. Still working it. Okay, so Bitcoin is also telling you that we're not out of the woods yet. We need to move up here. Okay, so the only big move for me is the S&P 500 on ceasefire day. This is a huge move, 2.5% a day, huge gap up, but it wasted a lot of fuel and a lot of the underlying, a lot of the companion trades with the like if the S&P is up 2.5, I would expect oil to be down a lot. Okay, so it's not. It's just down 10%. Okay, so oil, gold, and silver are not really saying that times are amazing. Okay, so this is why I have mixed results on this ceasefire. We need to have solid fundamental growth in the peace narrative going forward, and hopefully by Friday, if they meet at Islamabad, if JD Vance or whoever meets at Islamabad with the Iranian delegation, something solid gets done and this war truly ends. Okay, otherwise we could go down again. It's not over. It's just a 2-week pause. Okay, so remember that, guys. All right, looking forward to what happens by Friday. It's going to be a crazy, crazy couple of weeks and April. Later, guys.